So hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Wangui Mwangi and I'm a Kenyan and I do videos on nursing, and I want to include more videos of different varieties in this channel. So I'll be adding a little bit of travel videos as well as motherhood videos, as well as a little bit of vlogging, but at a later time. So I want to start my very first travel video, and I'll be sharing a story where I traveled to Tanzania recently, and this was by road, which meant driving across the border and back. So I will be talking about the requirements, and if you're wondering whether we actually really used the road from Kenya to Tanzania and back, it is possible and we actually did it. So I will be telling that information in this video. So this video does not include information if you're a foreigner in Kenya and want to travel to Tanzania. It's just about Kenyans wanting to travel to Tanzania across the border. So stay tuned. Let's dive right in. So among the requirements, number one is a passport. It should be a valid passport that has at least 3 blank pages. It should either be the international passport, the one that we have that is called the East African travel passport. I will be showing you the pictures in this video, or having the temporary passport for traveling within the 3 East African countries. So you can either have the passport or the temporary one. The temporary one I think usually is for a year and is usually a little bit cheaper. The other one, the other passport I think is about 4,500, but this other one is about 800 to a K, depending on where you get it. So yes, you need a passport or that travel document. So number 2 on this requirements list is yellow fever vaccination evidence. So this, most of the places you will go for yellow fever vaccine, they will give you a yellow fever vaccine certificate. So keep it well. It is usually a yellow document that also will have your biodata plus your passport number. This will help you while traveling a lot in many countries where they require this yellow fever. Then we have, maybe I would talk more about the yellow fever. Usually you can get it at the Nairobi City Council. They have an inoculation center. If you don't find it there, most hospitals will have, especially above level 5. I know for sure Kenyatta National Hospital has. We have several other places you can get, private-owned businesses such as the Wilson Airport. You can get, they have a vaccination center. A good number of pharmacists and chemists in Nairobi City will have a vaccination center, so you could inquire if they actually do. So there is one called Porter Health Inoculation Center. That is where I got mine, and this is the second time. Nowadays, once you get it, that one jab lasts you a lifetime. 10 years ago, I had done a vaccination, and that used to last you 10 years. And that one I had done it at the City Council, Nairobi City Council offices in the inoculation center. There, it costed me 2,500, but in this Porto Health, I think, vaccination center, it costed about 3,000. So I know for sure the Wilson Vaccination Center charges 2,500 as well. So you would like to compare places and see if you benefit. Kenyatta, I think, used to be 2,500, but I don't know how it is now. So yeah. So number 3 on this list, if you're driving, of course, you should have the logbook and the original logbook of the car you're driving. If it's a car that you've hired, then they should be able to let you have the logbook or a scanned copy. And they should be able to verify that you have actually hired the car from them. Though it is easier if the person driving the car is the car owner, especially when you're doing the process at the border. So you should have the official or the original logbook plus many copies. So requirement number 4 is, of course, car insurance. Car insurance is, you should have evidence of this. And since you will be leaving Kenya, that car insurance that you already are using will only be good up until the border. Beyond the border, you need to have the COMESA the COMESA printout of the insurance, and you will have to add a little bit of money depending on how many people you'll be traveling with in your vehicle. You will be charged per adult persons or people above, I think, 2 years. So yeah, so you will pay and they will give you a quotation, then you pay, and then you can travel and you can use it for a whole month. So number 5, I would list here the COVID requirements, and there used to be 2, but I think nowadays you can use 1. So the first one is evidence that you do not have COVID or a negative test, and this is a PCR test. So initially you used to do the COVID PCR test, and once it's negative, this one you do like 72 hours before you travel, or it should be at least 72 hours by the time you get to the border, the validity. Then if you get to the border and they ask you for additional, or they may even want to test you further, they can subject you to a rapid test. So the PCR is usually a bit more expensive than the rapid one. The PCR ranges from between 5,000 to about 10,000 depending on where you are taking the test. I took mine at a private lab that I actually found on Instagram. They're called Ponea Health. And actually I had been referred to by a friend, and they were very they fit to the requirements I had, and it was convenient using them because they came at home to collect the sample. Therefore you can be able to prolong the length of stay of your COVID PCR test if you're able to time it properly. So this is what I mean. If you're going for, let's say, 2 or 3 days, you don't need to do the test twice. You don't need to do the PCR twice, because that is 7K plus 7K. So if you can save 7K, the better. So the rule is, as you go, it should be at least less than 72 hours. So don't do it too early. So I was leaving here on Friday. I did mine on Thursday. And when I did mine on Thursday, the result came out at Thursday about 2:34 p.m. So by the time I was crossing the border the following day, it was about maybe 2. So that was only 12 hours that I had spent with my COVID results, my negative COVID results or report. So coming back, I came back on Sunday. So I arrived at the border a little bit about 12:30 or 12:20, around there. And therefore, I was still within the limit of the 72 hours. Coming back to Kenya, you should have a COVID report that is less than 96 hours. So even if I came back by Monday, maybe 12 p.m., that test report would still have been good to go. So yes, but it is good to work with the 72 hours so that you do not take a test here and a test there. Sometimes if they do insist, you may still have to do the additional rapid test. So the additional rapid test at the border usually costs between 1,000 to 3,000. Usually it's supposed to be $10, but you may find because of the rate of the day, it is either above or below that much. So it used to be $30, but nowadays I think it's $10. So if you're subjected to that, then that is an additional amount you need to have factored in. So requirement number 6, of course, is money, and it has to do with money because there are some charges that you will be charged that you cannot plan for way much ahead without cash. Because all those things I have talked about, of course, I have used money already. By the time I'm getting to the border, I've done my yellow fever, which ranges between 2,500 to 3,000, and I have my certificate. Of course, I have my passport, which costs either between 1,000 or 4,500, depending on what pass I'm using. Then I've also done the PCR COVID-19 test, and of course it is negative. So I've already spent about 7,000 on that, let's say on average. Of course, you can find cheaper places. I did not. I used the one that I paid 6,550 at Ponea Health because I wanted them to take my sample conveniently at home. So then, fueling the car. Remember, I'm talking about driving across the border. I still haven't talked about the most important ones. There is fuel. It is a bit costly because you need, depending on the distance, Tanzania is quite big. So depending on where you're going in Tanzania, it is the same as mileage as the same mileage as you use here. So if you are going to cover a distance of 1500 kilometers, you should have fuel that covers you for the 1500 kilometers or a little bit more. So the distance I was going to is up to Dodoma, then to another town called Gairo and back. So that is about 1500 kilometers to and fro. So I think one way was about 800 kilometers. So if for those kilometers, that let's say 1600 kilometers, we used 4 full tanks. So that is about 20,000 shillings. So it could be more if, of course, if your car has more cc's than ours. I think that car was about 1600 cc or maybe 1500 cc. So if it is more, of course, expect to use more fuel. And again, if you're driving at a speed above 100, again, more fuel will be required. So probably you need to have a little bit more, basically. So yeah, in terms of still at the border, there is a cost that you will be charged to be able to temporarily export the car. If you're traveling by car through a border into another country, it's considered that you have exported that car. So there is a fee that you are asked to pay. On the website, they say it's $17, but it ended up being about 2,500 officially on the border, Pitukwa Grau, and this should actually be refunded once you bring back the car. And sometimes they may ask you to leave the original logbook. It depends again on what you find on that day. But I think they will definitely need to see the original logbook as you travel. If you don't have it, but you're still the person driving it and it is your car, it is a bit easier than if you are driving a rented car or a borrowed car across the border without the original logbook. You might get trouble there. So the tips I would say, one, if you're going a distance of more than those kilometers, maybe somewhere you're driving for more than 16 kilometers one way, then you ought to have at least 2 drivers so that they can at least alternate, because of course fatigue would again end up in accidents. You do not want that. Then you also need to have plenty of foods or snacks, be snacking on, enough adequate water. From the border towards Tanzania can be a little bit hot. It's actually very hot comparing to what we are used to. If you're using the Namanga border, it is between Kajiado County. We consider Kajiado hot if you come from where I come from, which is part of central Kenya. Our central Kenya is a little bit colder and more, what can I say? It's cold. The environment is a little bit harsh when you go to Kajiado for us, because it's a lot more dry. There's a lot of dry winds. It's a bit more sunny, or the sun scorch you very right, and there isn't so much coverage in terms of like trees and all that, but there still is some. Therefore, you need to have at least enough adequate drinking water, adequate snacks, so that you don't waste so much time stopping everywhere getting some drinks or something like that. So yeah, when you get to the Tanzanian border, it is very, very important to follow the traffic rules, especially the road signs. If somewhere is written 50 kilometers per hour, you ought to follow that so that you do not get surcharged. Because again, remember, you are standing out because you have a Kenyan number plate, and then they have the Tanzanian number plate. So blend in as much as possible, but seamless. It will be fast, it will be seamless. The roads are quite good. From Kenya to Dodoma, you actually use the same road that you are using from Kajiado, and it is A104, and you drive through with it, and it is actually well marked. It has good signage. You just need to keep following it. Then I found Google Maps is actually very, very accurate on the same, so you won't get lost. So yeah. So in terms of accommodations, there are so many types of accommodation. If you don't have someone hosting you at their home, you can get either hostels, you can get hotels, or you can even get lodges. So lodgings are actually cheaper. The cheaper option, no, the cheapest option is actually the hostels, followed by lodgings, then by hotels. So you can get a hostel of like 1,000 or less than 1,000, like 100, 800, 700 bob per night per adult person. There is a fund rule that you cannot spend the night with a person of the same gender. So like, let's say you're traveling and you're two buddies of the same gender, you might be forced to take two rooms. So factor that in. Then the lodgings ranges between 20,000 Tanzanian shillings to around 40,000 Tanzanian shillings. That is between 1,000 Kenyan shillings to about 3,000 Kenyan shillings. But as for hotels, it could be the cheapest I think you can find is about 2,000 Kenyan shillings, going all the way to about 30,000 per night. So depending on how push you need that hotel to be. So yeah, the way they construct the building, everything else is actually very nice. It's a bit different from what we are used to, but again, they are very hospitable people. They are welcoming, they are sociable, they are just lovely to be with. So requirement number 7, only if you have children traveling with you, this is for you. So if you have minors below 18 and they are accompanying you in the same vehicle, you need to have their travel documents. So they also should have passports or the travel documents that is for East Africa. They also should have yellow fever if they are above 9 months old. So yes, you need to have proof of yellow fever vaccination. Below 5 years, they are not required to have COVID requirements. Above 12 years, they're supposed to have COVID requirements. So they should take the test as you were taking it, and they should have evidence of vaccination. So at the moment, we all had been vaccinated the first and the second dose, all the people traveling in that vehicle. However, you need to print out that certificate. They are not using that exclusively to preclude you or to say that you do not have COVID. You still have to do the PCR, however. Yeah. So that is an additional point, especially if you're traveling with children. And of course, you have added things to have for those babies. So I carried my son's passport. I actually didn't have the physical birth certificate, and that took me a little bit of time to get it online, because remember, once you switch out to that other border, already you're in the Tanzanian border, so you're roaming. So it took me a bit of time, but I got it online and I showed them that this is actually my child using the birth certificate. Sometimes you may be required to have the immunization history or the immunization card. So those are important documents to have, especially if you're traveling with children below 5 years.